Morning, David.
Morning, Les. How you doing?
Good, good. Yourself?
Doing well. You're looking pretty relaxed after the weekend.
Worked all the way through, but took lots of breaks.
So, yeah, we got to talk about that. Working through the weekends is one of my habits also. We got to break that one a little bit. But anyway,
Yeah.
we're back to dynamic healing moments here this morning, and I am in Utah. I'm with my grandchildren over the weekend, and my son and daughter-in-law had a great weekend. And it's sort of a contrast of emotions right now is that, my father passed away, as you all know, and I've gone through that process. I've also had 7 close friends and acquaintances have major losses in the last 3 weeks. It's been a stunning sequence. My son and I are sort of reeling from all of this, but just, digs you into what life is all about one day at a time, because we intellectually know we have one day, but that's about it. But we're going to keep going on this concept of rigid thinking and how the human brain works. And today we're going to talk about predictive coding. And basically, the way every living creature survives is if something in the past was dangerous, then you're not going to do it again. So you're not going to walk outside in
Right.
free weather without a coat, because that wasn't a comfortable experience, or your hand over a hot burner of a stove. You don't have to learn that lesson too many times, but it's called predictive coding. And now Les knows a lot about this because his whole work of acceptance and commitment therapy is around this. Then the Doc Journey is sort of a self-directed form of acceptance and commitment therapy. And why we're so excited about finding each other's work is that we add lots of dimensions to each other's work. So I'm excited about this whole process. But the bottom line is your brain wants to become efficient, and Les will talk about that in a second. But just an example of predictive coding is a friend of ours, Dr. Schumer, tells a story where his wife brings breakfast and bread, and she usually brings a crisp apple. So it's sort of dark. He just sort of reaches for the apple and just eats it. And one morning she brought up a peach. So he bites into this, quote, apple, and it was a peach. His brain was predicting apple, and what his brain said, this is a rotten apple instead of a fresh peach. And he got physically sick almost. So your brain predicts what's going to happen next. And if you get new data in that contradicts your perception of that, you've either got to change your thinking or change your behavior, one of the two. So this thing called predictive coding is how the brain works. It's just the way that we work. That's just flat out the way it is. And so we have to be aware of the fact that it's great for survival. It is not great for human relationships. Is that a fair statement, Dr.
Yeah,
Clark?
absolutely. Absolutely. And also for chronic pain. I mean, it's not great for chronic pain because, it's good for acute pain and for real serious, new injuries. But with chronic pain, it stops us from living because, it basically sends messages that as if something is damaged when it's not. So one of the things with predictive coding, just to kind of put some meat on this bone here a little bit, is that it actually has a very unique network in the brain. So let me just kind of draw some attention to this. I shaved my head for everyone this morning. Just want to let you know.
No, I forgot my sunglasses again, but I'll.
So if you think of 2 brain parts, now mind you, the brain uses all its networks, but just for simplicity here today, predictive coding, we can just kind of focus on 2 parts in the brain. The somatosensory area, which is kind of up here. It's like a body map, if you will, where it has all the sensations that come in there, right? So it's kind of like when you're cutting and you nick your finger as you're cutting some food or vegetable, you know exactly it's your pinky, it's on your left hand. That kind of map is here. So it gets processed in the somatosensory, called the primary somatosensory. So when that gets activated, it also sends it down to the front part of the brain, which is also part of the emotional brain. So it's called the anterior cingulate cortex, ACC. And that part of the brain influences our cognition, influences our emotions, and it influences the way we react to pain. So when you sense physical pain in the body, we start to add our mental scripts, and we tend to experience certain emotions with that physical pain, and it tends to oscillate. So what David is saying is when the brain is efficient. So when chronic pain occurs, or anything in that matter, whether it's the peach or the apple, or you meet someone that you've had a not nice interaction with, your brain makes a predictive coding. Your spouse comes in with a frown, you're like, I know that frown. You don't say it out loud, but your brain may know it.
Right.
And right, David? And so in that sense, what happens is your brain in predictive coding is saying, I am going to pull on previous experiences and I'm going to try to figure out what this new experience is. And it tends to make a decision at that point. And often it's based on a lot of past mental scripts, emotions, and experiences. So,
Well, you brought up a huge point, which we can't get into today about family reactions because people, I mean, families trigger each other and a certain phrase will get a certain reaction from a certain person, right? It's predictable.
right.
And so what happens in a way, instead of just facing the conflict and making your needs known and dealing with the outcome, you start tiptoeing around the other person, but especially in chronic pain, because people with chronic pain are frustrated, they're angry, their families often become a target. So it becomes a really delicate situation within the family that, mom or dad's having a bad day today. And so you just tiptoe out of the house. You don't feel safe, you feel anxious. And that's why people with high A scores, adverse childhood experiences, have higher reactivity in their brain because their brain predicts that certain behavior is going to have a certain reaction. So then we also know that fear of fear, that actually is inflammatory. So then your nerve conduction increases and you feel the pain even more. And so you get this horrendous cycle going in chronic pain, but also really chronic disease. So this predictive thing is how we survive. Again, great for survival. We want to be efficient, and we are. The species that evolved is incredibly efficient at surviving, but we haven't really figured out human relationships all that well in the big picture of human life.
Yep.
So we're talking before the Facebook Live about some of the general overall solutions for it, but I'll just finish by saying that you will get more and more entrenched in your thinking that you become aware of this fact that this is the way the brain is supposed to work. And for you to change as a person, you have to be aware of this fact that your brain is going to embed patterns. It's going to become efficient. You have to be aware that fact's in place. Then you have to actively change it. It doesn't just change. It gets stronger with time. It doesn't get weaker.
Yep. I think I love what you just said. We have to actively participate, actively change. If you want a different outcome, you have to create a new experience. So with that said,
is that a lessism?
It is. It is. I was trying to slip it in, David. You have to make it so obvious.
See, that's my predictive coding here. I'm getting very sensitized to these lessisms.
So yeah.
So I predicted there would be a lessism this morning. I haven't heard one. Let's try that one again.
Yes, yes. So with that said, again, seriously, if you want to feel differently, if you want to experience something differently, you have to kind of create a new experience. What does that mean? That means is we want you to bring the practice of mindfulness. Let me define mindfulness. Mindfulness is not something mumbo jumbo. It is brain science. I call it a neural exercise. I mean, a brain exercise. So just like you pump irons or do push-ups or do sit-ups or go for a walk, is part of your mind needs to be taken care of. And how do you take care of your mind? Here's how you do it. You practice mindfulness. It's a way of investing in your relationships. Mindfulness is defined as paying attention purposefully with attention to the experience with a sense of openness, which means acceptance, non-judgment, and curiosity. If you can bring at least those three mental qualities, so when you experience physical pain, if you can actually be not judging yourself, and bring a sense of openness, like, all right, so it's here. That's called acceptance. And then curiosity, I noticed that it's twisting and turning. It's about this size, it's this long. If you can kind of describe it versus react to it, at that point, as you do that, and even drop into your breath and breathe nice and evenly, as something painful occurs, or even could be an interaction, if you notice that you're getting kind of anxious talking to someone, what happens at that moment when you pay attention, not to over-identify with the thoughts, emotions, or sensations, but just to notice, just to recognize that something showed up and to get curious and just be open to it without reacting to it, you just create a new experience. So then the next time you experience the physical pain or the interaction, you will still feel that spike, but you won't get drunk in it. And that's the neural exercise.
Well, two things I want to emphasize. First of all, it's not just a physical pain. Remember, we think the mental pain is actually the bigger problem. So mental pain is a big problem. So you have mental pain is processed in the same part of the brain as physical pain. So it's the same process. And so the mental pain is a huge issue. And also remember, this is, like Les said, this is not some mumbo jumbo. It's not even psychology. I know I really try to temper this correctly, but you're changing the brain's structure. Mindfulness, you're rerouting pathways change, new connections are made, your body chemistry changes, your brain shifts from the midbrain to the upper part of the brain. Let's talk about the shift between the sensory input part of the brain to the thinking centers. So you're changing pathways, you're actually changing your life. This
Yeah.
is it's not this is so scientifically based. And that's for me as an orthopedic surgeon who just has been used to looking at structure. This is such a profound shift in thinking for me. It's unbelievable. So I'm excited about it. And my guru, Dr. Arya, came through again with the lessism. Now, what was that lessism again?
If you want a different outcome, create a new experience.
There you go. So that changes your brain, right? It's like learning a new language. You want something different, do it. So if you want to obsess about what you're not doing, guess what? That's not going to work.
Yep.
Anyway, we're going to be going on brain science this week. We're going to talk about obsessive thought patterns. We're talking about phantom brain pain later this week. This is in leading up to our workshop on August 14th. Les and I are holding a Saturday workshop through the Open Center. It's on my website. And is it on your website now?
Yeah, it should be on our social media, Instagram. So Remedy Pain. Yep.
Right. So it's called, Les is at remedypain.co. Mine is at thedocjourney.com. And it's a Saturday one-day workshop. And we're going to look at this irrational part of the brain versus the rational part. And how do you deal with this part that just won't go away? And it's not that hard to do. So we're excited about the workshop. It's August 14th. You look at the Open Center, my website, or Dr. Arya's website to sign up for it. This is Dynamic Healing Moments, and we appreciate your time. So it's great talking to you.
Yeah, great. Have a great morning, everyone.